euphoria, because for a scientist like you to have a breakthrough like this, it's usually the result of years, if not decades, of your life being dedicated to a cutting edge thread of research and being on the bleeding edge of that field. Now, as you as this thought coalesces, as this idea becomes solidified in your mind, you hear a strange, almost like old fax technology, kind of like electronic kind of squawking tone in the back of your mind. And this image appears to you. Now, as you take this in, you realize that what this is the fundamental and basic form of an incredibly durable nanite. Now, unfortunately, this doesn't put you in reach of building this nanite. What you're going to need, you realize right away, is that nano forge. That will give you the basic building blocks to produce what is essentially going to be your prototype nanite that is of this next caliber that you need. Not only that, but you get the sense that because you chose the mechanical discipline first, that there is going to be kind of an enhancement to the base of your final model that you may see real payout in the long run. So as you are considering this molecule that has now taken residence in your mind, this masterpiece that fills you with this euphoria, the creature says, "This is much for a mortal being to take in. I will give you a moment to consider the abilities you wish the orbs to present. Remember, they will be more aligned with what you desire, the more closely they are aligned to the principle of mechanical manipulation. Alert me when you are ready, young wizard." Okay, and with this, you start seeing what you believe to be different examples of what are kind of focused expressions of this mechanical discipline. And as you see some of these kind of just pass by your perception, they fill you with wonder. Some of these molecules, some of these kinds of nanites, they look almost indistinguishable from what you would call magic. They are things of beauty, of sterile geometry that is so precise and dynamic that they almost border on the divine. All of these seem to be examples of the kinds of enhancements that will be required to produce different effects as you combine this new kind of technology with your own techno wizardry and begin producing hybrids. As you consider this, a myriad of possibilities swim through your mind about different ways that these things could be applied. And in this moment, we go ahead and turn it over to you, Ren. What three things are the most desirable that you would like to inquire about or implement as far as upgrades for those orbs?
See, this is what I'm still confused about because, like, what do you like? So, as far as the mechanical side of things, I don't know where I can even go with this. Like I've got ideas, but I don't know if I'm even in the right ballpark.
So, for
Can you maybe help
example,
me out with an example? Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. So, for example, you were speaking before about the orbs being able to flatten themselves to being almost like just thin discs or expand out, um,
Well, I mean,
or or
honestly, way down the line, I had an idea of basically these two orbs floating around me, and they could turn into basically grains of sand, um, and then reform at will because they can just do such things. Like,
so
I mean,
just complete discorporation into like just constituent particles, just like nanites floating around in a cloud, basically.
yeah.
Okay. Would you want those to be able to like burn through shit or
I mean, yeah, I had ideas of them being ways to create, well, like uh, shadow and flame, um, just like kind of sticking with the theme of my family's blade. Um, so
okay?
yeah, I mean, I had ideas for like spells and adding to it, but as far as like the mechanical side of things, yeah, I mean, overall, not going so much the liquids like T1000 stuff, or not just a ball that shoots little blades out like Phantasm, but more like a yeah, like these balls that can break themselves down and then reform, almost like a vampire turning into mist, or the mummy turning into sand in the mummy movies, or type thing.
Okay, and this would allow them to like basically get through anything that's not environmentally sealed and reform on the other side, basically.
That to an extent would be part of the benefits of it, but also yeah, like I mean, the different applications that I've thought of when I thought of this particular thing were, um, like I said earlier, like not just like aerosol spray, but like once they got to the point of technology where like they themselves could, you know, have this coating on them as they broke into these molecules, light themselves on fire, and then protect themselves and reform back into a ball, or become these charged little particles in the air that maybe sends a web or a chain of lightning through it, and then after the charge reform back into a ball, and that's just the attack potential as far as using them to cloak uh, magnetic fields, like a orb of darkness type spells, but between the different little tiny orbs,
Let
radar
me offer
disruption.
this real
I mean,
quick. I think these are all excellent ideas. One of the things that you're considering as this is all going through your mind is that until you hit where you've procured a nanoforge and reverse engineered this like molecule of yours, you would guess that for the most part, you're going to need to relatively keep them as like solid orbs. Now, that isn't to say that you couldn't make them be able to kind of change their shape considerably, but for the most part, you would guess that anything where they kind of deconstitute down to a cloud form is going to be something that you're going to need that level of the technology for. Now, that being said, that could be something that you're planning on doing soon, and you could try and develop things that you're leading into those specific effects. For right now, let's take they turn into a cloud and then electrocute everything between them, right? That could go with just simply having access to the nanotech and having them discorporate. It could go with some magical powering, some magical ingredient to create like an electric field. It could go with a mechanical effect to create the electric field. Mechanical could give you magnetics, so could mystical. So there would be lots of different ways to definitely get there. I feel pretty much the same about any kind of like heat. Anything where they ignite, I think that could be either mechanical or magical. You would guess that having the orbs, whether you had them be able to change form or not right now, you would be able to implement something that would be on a much lower level than an AI, but something you could focus on might be to give them the very first groundwork for having not sentience right now, but for having their own their own kind of presence. And by that I mean, instead of you having to direct them and have them be something that you're kind of spending your attacks on and kind of having to give a lot of direction to, maybe giving them something like a rudimentary operating system so that they're able to offload some decision making onto themselves, where as they're upgraded and you proceed, maybe that turns into them having a personality, right? And having their own kind of sets of attacks where you could be more like a commander than an operator. You see what I'm saying? Other options with mechanical would be, being able to perhaps interface with machinery. I feel like mechanical is definitely where you would find some of the different
Well, that was
physical properties of like turning into a large sheet of protective like metal, right? Where it's not really discorporating, but it's able to have like a defensive property by expanding its shape and doing whatever.
yeah. I mean, part of that was the thought was like using down the line if that was possible. I mean, this is all just I didn't know what was possible,
Sure.
but if, yeah, with the idea of that being able to spread wider than itself, but then still be able to use like an energy shield type feel like spell, but it would expand its overall range because of they could instead of just two little balls doing it, it would be spread out amongst itself as this like a wall. But also, yeah, I had the idea of um basically like I guess a link to the machines. So we're like, say I am busy doing something, say I'm in combat, and that door needs to get open. I could send them to it. They could break down into the different, smaller machines or whatever it may be, get inside of a computer. I could use my psionics while still dealing with my stuff and have like a telepathic link between them where they're hacking it using my ability and knowledge to do it while I'm, dealing with something else or driving or whatever, it may be. So, uh,
Interesting.
I
Go
guess.
go ahead and roll a perception roll again. Oh, this is good. You're actually coming to a lot of the information yourself. So, as you're considering this, one thing that dawns on you that's incredibly important to this whole process, it strikes you like a log to the face. You realize that this kind of connection that you're talking about, the way it's going to manifest up until you get a basically a perfect chimeric particle going, is your connection to this technology is going to happen via your telemechanics. You realize now that in a lot of instances, what you're going to need to do is have your telemechanics activated so that you can actually interact with this new tech that you're coming up with and becoming a part of. And so, in that way, moving forward, you're going to be able to kind of base decisions off of what you want to research with that in mind, okay? You do definitely get the sense that based on that, eventually you would be able to build up a real connection, almost a psionic connection with this tech where you may be able to do things remotely like that. You'd have to go through the steps, obviously, of getting the tech up to that level, but you do feel like that's something that is easily within reach with this.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm still not sure what 3 things I need to say here to.
Essentially, if you want to just kind of pick 3 things about the orbs that you're going to try and kind of improve, or kind of basic things that you want them to be able to do, this being is going to kind of mix and match stuff for you so that you can get there.
Well, I mean, obviously, then I'd want to be able to get to the point of where they could break down into smaller pieces. To what extent, I don't know. Maybe the strengthening of the actual materials they're made of themselves, just because of the fact that the one was destroyed so easily in first interaction with them, and I just had basically a reworked shell of one. And then to improve, I guess, the communications and link between me and them, to be able to have more control than over their base programs, I guess. Or is that too small for now? Or I mean, I don't.
That all sound, you would guess that that's all doable. Would you like to say that?
Yeah, that's what I would. Yeah.
Okay. So the being responds with this. Very well. Wise decisions all. Although you may not deconstitute matter yet, not until the nanite is within your grasp, I can make improvements which will allow you to disassemble into smaller pieces. This will aid you in many ways moving forward. A further boon, something spicy, perhaps. Energy, an attack. Name a way in which you would like them to be able to vanquish your foes, and I will add it, or something approximate, for free. You are wise, and wise decisions deserve reward.
I guess upon that, I will I'll do I'll just cast electric arc between like my 2 hands, if that's possible, to kind of show like an idea of maybe like a chain lightning that could possibly be cast from me to them and then transferred to the other one, maybe to hit multiple, or a field of electricity to stun or stagger or disrupt machinery. Electricity would be, I mean,
All right.
We want to decide on what we can do exactly, but.
All right, as you say that, the entity responds, wonderful, wonderful, yes. I see great things in your future. Why we will not be uncovering the inner mysteries of nanotech currently, They will be held in reserve for you. As you move forward, these fundamentals will be expressed in whatever you choose further in this discipline. Until you have unlocked the nanite, though, let us explore electricity within the confines of your new toys. We will begin work momentarily. This is the particle we will introduce. Okay. As you look at this image that appears in front of you, you see that the crystalline structure that appears to be growing and retreating and retracting back into the surface constantly at random intervals. It appears as though there are small arcs of electricity that in some way are actually fueling the growth. Wherever you see these little arcs wisp across this purplish orb, that you take to be some kind of like a mystical particle, something microscopic, you see that this kind of crystalline structure quickly erupts following these little arcs. As you're observing this particle, you start getting a very, very potent sense of its parameters and identifying characteristics. You feel like you quickly pick up basic concepts about this unknown, mysterious particle almost instantaneously and out of thin air just by observing it. You do not have a name for it. You've never heard of anything similar to it. But you are sure that it pertains to the mystical manifestation of electricity, lightning, and so on. As this flashes through your mind, you hear your quote unquote patron speak again, saying to you, and so now that these selections have been made, are we agreed that you wish for the following improvements to your technology? You wish to have the physical structure be able to strengthen. You wish for the structure to be able to separate. You also wish for a rudimentary intelligence, enabling further enhancement as you proceed. Finally, to attack your enemies, you wish for lightning power to be added to your creation. Is this correct?
I'll nod.
Okay, and as you do so, you start feeling yourself kind of falling backwards. A few strange images flash in front of your eyes as you start feeling a sense of vertigo. You can't really make heads or tails out of what you're seeing, but you're sure that it all has to do with this kind of alchemy that you've just been speaking to this creature about. None of them seem particularly familiar, but you get the impression that they're all very potent in their own ways. Finally, as you feel yourself being kind of slowly roused by some physical sensation, you look up and you see that you are once again at the edge of the hole in the floor, and that Geiger is still sitting right next to you. Geiger has a hand on your shoulder and is gently kind of moving your shoulder to kind of rouse you from the trance that you're in. And Geiger is already beginning to stand up and collect herself and turn towards the stairs.
I'll do the same.
Okay, as you guys turn and head up, she quickly takes up a position at the fabrication table and appears to wait for you. As you follow along, Geiger points over at your pack and belongings and says, "If you're ready to begin, time is short. We should get started."
Agreed.
Okay. You go ahead and produce the two orbs, one in much more kind of sorry shape than the other. The general appearance is roughly something like this. They have a couple of small attachments and a little bit of plating that's a little more crude than something you would have designed. They obviously are more kind of assembly line units and are in principle designed more for mass production rather than any kind of real innovation. As you place them on the fabrication workstation, the lights of the bench come to life and the arms begin rotating down, initiating a diagnostic routine. Geiger appears to know exactly what you guys are doing and begins holding her hands out and rapidly manipulating the control pad on the fabrication bench, apparently inputting different equations that will be necessary to make some of the kind of parts and enhancements that you're going to need. As she's doing this, you turn towards the workstation and immediately realize what you're going to need to begin and what you're going to need to do to start making some of these upgrades. You start making a mental list of the order that you're going to need to proceed in and some of the materials you're going to need. You quickly start moving around the workshop almost in a daze, collecting the materials from around the area. You start plugging in various additional power cords that are going to be necessary, as you're going to need to be using the smaller table as well for its additional work surface. As you
May I equip just a pair of gloves on before I start working, and then if it's possible, can I cast manipulate objects on those through the gloves?
Absolutely.
The manipulate objects spell was designed to help a sorcerer when he needs an extra pair of hands but has no one to assist him. Not like I don't have anyone to assist me, but just to speed up the process and get things. Considering I was told I have very little time.
Absolutely. Good call. Good call. As you do that, the magic flows out through the physical manifestation of the gloves, and right away you multiply what you're able to do at one time dramatically. You begin just flying through the preliminary stages of disassembling the orbs so that you can kind of, rebuild them from the ground up with some new components and concepts. You get into an incredible flow state where you and Geiger almost are moving as a perfect unit. And as this is going on, time begins to kind of slip away from you. Go ahead and roll another perception check. Okay. You are you're struck by how well you're working together. Um, and this keeps tickling something at the back of your mind, but it doesn't seem to go anywhere as for the most part, you're just lost in concentration. As you continue on, um, you realize that it's already been roughly half an hour, and already you guys have everything disassembled, and the fabrication machine is now beginning to build components from light MDC alloys uh, to the specifications that you've come up with to make these modifications. Now, as this whole process is going on, you're having just a symphony of new, innovative thought just run like a freight train through your mind every second of the process. This kind of discovery it's almost like a drug, and you are overtaken by how much of this you're getting all at once. And this is all right in the thread of what you've been searching for all this time. So you are feeling on a high like you haven't felt pretty much ever in your life right now. Um, you move forward quickly. Within about 15 minutes more, you guys have most of the additional components finished fabricating, and have now started working on some of the more intricate components. You're really seeing through this process how choosing to focus on what you have, the shell is already many times more dense and absorbent to damage than the previous model. You also know that you've tightened the tolerances incredibly, making a much more just sleek, sophisticated model. You have already set up different points on the units that are able to disengage from each other and still be able to be fully independently powered and capable themselves. You've got a very sophisticated operating system set up, as well as the kind of processing unit designed and fabricated and ready to go, with all of the components that are going to be enhanced. You feel that this is definitely going to be an extremely useful item to have as something that you're kind of toting along now. As a few more minutes pass by, all of the sudden you hear that same tone go off where the door seems to unlock. As it does, you actually hear the front door start to swing open all at once. It seems like it unlocks and just starts swinging straight open. As you gaze back over your shoulder, it takes you just a second to respond. Go ahead and roll. Well, we don't really need initiative, as it takes you just a second to respond as you're deep in thought. As you do start gazing back over your shoulder, you notice that Geiger has already seemingly uh, activated some kind of defense response, and the rifle has morphed once again out of her arm. It's dead set towards the front door, and as it's leveled there, you see this kind of plume of smoke coming from the end of the barrel that's some kind of reaction to the plasma that it's generating. As she levels the rifle, she says in a very robotic and kind of hollow tone.
1 second, my roll 20 just locked up on me again for some reason. I don't know what keeps doing that.
Oh, no worries at all.
You can continue. I just wanted to let you know in case you had to show something.
Okay. As she points towards the door, She says, intruders
Intruders
detected,
detected.
intruders
Intruders
detected,
detected.
lethal force authorized. As she does that, you finally spin fully around and are able to look up, and at the door stands your two companions. They look extremely surprised, and as Ymir is crouched down in the background trying to get some kind of image of what's happening, some kind of view of what's happening inside the workshop, you see that Akama is actually standing right there in the doorway, and his eyes are wide as he's looking down the barrel of that rifle.
Say blast them. No, I'm joking.
All right,
I'll
so
quickly tell her to stand down.
what do you want to say?
I'll quickly uh, ask her to stand down, and then gesture at them and say, they're with me. They're friends."
Okay, you reach out to her and yell, stand down, stand down. As you do so, you hear some kind of rippling, almost crackling energy signature behind, well, over towards the door. And as you glance back over in that direction, you see that your friends are now gone. They're no longer standing there, and the door is just slowly closing on its own.
Okay.
Okay, so as this happens, you see that she holds her position for just a second or two, her pose, where she looks like she still believes you guys are in danger. And as the door closes, you guys hear that same chime go off, denoting that the door is locked. And about 5 seconds pass, and she just kind of looks over at you slowly and kind of shrugs her shoulders in a almost unnervingly human kind of manner.
Do
As
I
she
take this as me being? Did that feel real to me? 100%.
Yes, it looked like your friends somehow opened the door to come maybe check on you, and then were just gone.
And it felt like it didn't. In the moment, it didn't feel like I was having a vision
Nope.
or like.
No, you're sure it was real.
But they're just gone when I look back after I tell her to stand down.
Yeah, and you're sure that they didn't just like scamper off. You literally looked away for a split second and looked right back.
Do I think there's any type of from just the way I look at her uh, mask and see how myself is like somewhat distorted from like time? Does that ring any bells there? Does that feel like that could have maybe something on that level happened actually in the regular world?
You're not feeling that. What your gut is telling you is that they were literally just there, and then something happened and they like disappeared.
Okay, and
Now, with all this, she actually reforms her hand very quickly, turns around, and just gets right back to work after shrugging.
but the door has made a noise like someone's waiting to come in or asking to come in now.
No, no, the chime went
Oh,
off that
the shrine was relocked and like.
yes, correct. After it closed.
I'll stand there for a second, waiting to see if I hear any alert or anything like that.
Okay, you keep an ear out, and seconds tick by and nothing seems to happen. All is quiet.
I'll go back to the table and try to focus back on my work, but also ask if she understands what just happened.
Okay. You go back to the table and you kind of inquire. And again, she just, while she's working, she just kind of shrugs and shakes her head, like just kind of genuinely dumbfounded, like who knows. But then she makes a sweeping gesture with her hand up around kind of you take the meaning to be the facility in general, and kind of makes another shrug with her hands in a very exaggerated way. And you get the impression that she's basically trying to say par for the course for this place. You got the impression that she has quite a bit of disdain for this kind of
Yeah,
monastery
yeah.
anyway, though.
Um, I'll say I'll try to regain my focus and just continue working, but possibly with a little bit more of a struggle, considering my brain will wander to try to every once in a while figure out what the fuck just happened.
Okay. All right. So you get back to work and you continue on. Now, as we continue, the next several hours actually pass incredibly quickly. You very, very quickly are able to start assembling the components into kind of cohesive structures. But what you're finding is that every time you're assembling it, Geiger is making some kind of small adjustment that makes you realize there's a more efficient way that you guys could do something, or you're making some kind of final calculation, and as she's going over the information, she's catching something that could be even more advantageous when it comes to power distribution, when it comes to tensile strength, when it comes to impact absorption, processing power, all kinds of different things. And so the process that could have been really streamlined and extremely quickly, it naturally blooms into something that's quite a bit longer. You rapidly realize that enough time has passed to where it's well past the point of being dark outside. You realize this as your stomach kind of rumbles a little bit, and you actually at that point hear a knock at the door. As you're hearing the knock at the door, you look down and you realize that you are basically done. You have pretty much finished assembling the last components, and what you have wound up with are these. Now, these spheres are considerably smaller than the previous model. However, they are not only much more durable, but they have integrated static field generators that when you implement one of the additional features, which is them separating each into three separate units, each of those units is able to spread out and make a perimeter within which a strong electromagnetic field will be generated. You're not 100% sure how strong this is going to be just yet. But after doing just a little bit of field testing, you should have a pretty good idea of what you've come up with and how successful you've been. Now, uh, as you look down and kind of get a smile across your face, appreciating your handiwork, both of these orbs power up and independently raise up and begin floating a couple of feet off of the surface of the workbench. As they do so, they hover and orient themselves with their lenses directly towards you. And for just a split second, you would almost guess that they're kind of almost welcoming you or introducing themselves. The one on the left seems to bob straight up and down just by a few inches, and then the one on the right makes a gentle circle counterclockwise, about in the same proportions. As they do so, they each click and whir just a little bit, making audible, obviously mechanical, but somehow hauntingly biological sounds. or imitations of them, as they seem to try and address you in some kind of audible manner. As this happens, Geiger looks over and extends one arm out and, in a friendly, playful gesture, slaps your left shoulder with the back of her left hand gently. You notice right away that she seems a little stronger than you would have guessed. But this is the first really human kind of gesture that you've seen come from her, and it kind of takes you aback just a little bit. You would have guessed she's much more kind of machine than human. Okay, at this, what would you like to be doing?
Um, Realizing that I was so caught up in my work and didn't realize how much time had flown by, I'd probably now be worried about the appearance of my friends than the disappearance, and realizing like, hey, I thought maybe they'd come back in just a bit, and they haven't, but then it's also been longer than I expected, so I probably would want to pack up and go check on them. And that would probably be saying, at least for now, a farewell to Geiger, unless I'm mistaken, but that's probably what I would think I would want to do, because it's been quite a while where if it wasn't for them not showing up, I might not have been, but the fact that they were there and then gone, a little bit weirded out by that.
Okay. As you go, what would you like to say to Geiger? Do you like? Do you, how do you wanna? Do you wanna?
Yeah.
You do still have your stuff, kind of,
Yeah, I would start packing up, and uh, I'm not sure who you had me meet in that vent back there. Um, but as of now, they don't seem that bad compared to some of the things I've seen recently in the past few days. Um,
I love your
so I
caution.
guess I just want to say, um, thank you very much for your assistance. What I've uncovered today, I may have never found in my lifetime, or could have been years, and all because I had to go pee and you were hiding out in the bathroom like a weird little invisible ninja. Now I have all this, so
Okay, at this, she barks out a harsh laugh really quick, just without being able to control herself, and she says, "Ha! Yes, there was a method to my madness. I was assigned to you. We shall be companions in the coming days as we venture into the bitter creep. I am the liaison from Metadine that was promised to your group. I decided to sneak in with the assistance of our patron in order to give you the opportunity to begin your research. I will leave now the same way that I came in and meet you at base camp tomorrow morning. Yes?
I'll just nod.
Okay. And with this, she quickly finishes packing up the last few things that she had been messing with to almost leave no trace behind. Nods at you curtly, turns, and quickly disappears back around the corner and down the stairs. Okay, and with this, the door closes.
Oh, before the door closed, don't I want to unfreeze the camera loops?
If you wish, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd probably want to unfreeze the camera loops because now I'm just in here by myself and I'm not doing anything suspicious. So I would do that real quick.
Okay. And you had plenty of success earlier with it, so you go back down, make the appropriate adjustments. And as you do so, you notice her form. You kind of catch up right as she's down at the base of the stairs. And as you watch, her form quickly and lively the disappears down the hole in the floor, and you see a sleek black hand reach up, grab a hold of the grate, and slide it closed above her, and then a long finger extend up and make a 180-degree turn and become a socket that all mechanically functions properly and secures the nuts back to the bolts. With this, it quickly slips back down, and once again, the room is in silence. You make your adjustments as this is happening, and then quickly head back up the stairs, done with what you needed to do down here. Okay. There we go. And as the door closes back up, you scan around the room quickly and see that you've pretty much left everything the way that it should be. One thing that you do see is on the console, there is a debt for the materials used in construction. It is simply 115 credits. You know from your experience that for, paying for everything that you were just able to access, that's a very, very good price. So you would guess that in no way are you being gouged or, taken advantage of or anything like that.
You said 115?
Correct.
Okay, I'll make that adjustment here. Okay.
Okay. So as you finish collecting everything and head to the front door, you take one last look around. Everything looks good. You open the front door, and as you do, you see that kind of on the stoop, right in front of the door, there are several large packages of what looks like food in to-go containers, as well as a large plastic mug with a cap over it and a straw in paper, all set up in front of the workshop. And as you look at this, you see that right on top, there appears to be, and it's all in a large brown paper sack that looks like it's kind of gotten a lot of condensation and moisture and has gone just a little soggy. But there's a yellow sticky note on the front of it that says "From your friends," written in a barely legible form of English. As you look down, you see that it looks like pretty much a meal fit for a king. It's huge. There's like 3 to-go containers all packed into this bag that you can tell. And you notice that the odor coming from it is incredibly pleasing. You realize how hungry you actually are. And yeah, this stuff smells good.
The size of this meal and the handwriting that you mirrored it. This is your mirror's idea of like a meal.
You would guess that would not. That's not out of the question. That definitely tracks. So.
Okay. I guess I'll just kind of pick through it and eat what I can. I don't have a huge. I mean, I'm hungry, but I don't have like a giant's appetite, so.
Okay.
I might be able to finish off a total of 1 of the to-go containers.
You want to head back in and do it at the table, or just do it outside, or?
I mean, is there anything set up outside that would be fine to eat, or does it?
There's actually a couple of benches and tables really close.
I would just sit out there and just probably scarf it down, and
okay.
Since I've already feel like I cleaned up the room and stuff like that, instead of going back in and having to restart, I'll just kind of
Excellent. As you finish up eating, you're actually feeling good and full, and you have like 2 huge containers left. You're wondering how you're going to get through any of this or what to do with it. Right there, your companions round the corner, and as they see you, throw up hands in acknowledgement, and you see smiles creep across their faces, and you can tell in this moment of reunion that from the pallor on their faces, the pallor of their faces, and the expressions that they wear, as well as some markings of what looks like perhaps combat, in the disheveled nature that they appear to be in, you wonder quickly what kind of shenanigans they've gotten into without you around to caution them against such foolish deeds. And with that, we will go ahead and break for next session where you guys will all be reunited. So,
Excellent, excellent.
awesome. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. And now, bow your head for the patrons. BKZJT, Rapid 3642. Andy Sasa, Nova Rose, Kelly T, Tommy Gunn, the Z24 Colts, Jess H, it's. If you would like a special thank you at the end of each of my videos, and some other cool stuff as well, visit patreon.com/homegrown lore. Thank you.